Hey everybody, welcome back to Backlog Banter. I'm your boy Abram, joined as always by Mr. Tucker Hazel. He didn't win any awards, so he's here
Yeah.
instead.
Damn.
BLB is where all the burnouts go. As soon
Yeah.
as soon as you get a Geoff Keighley trophy, you're in the big leagues. We're not there yet.
I got a great name for our new channel.
Yeah.
Burnout Paradise. Think about it.
Wow. Get ready to
We'll have to
subscribe,
workshop that one.
folks. We're going to split this channel in half, too. On that, you're going to get live reactions on Burnout Paradise, and here you're going to get long discussions.
Yay.
And this is not a joke.
Okay.
Today, folks, is December 13th, 2024. Just in case that wasn't clear.
Yeah.
And we're talking about last night's TGA event, Geoff Keighley's 10th anniversary Game Awards show. And it was pretty staggering in my view. So we want to sit down and talk a little bit about the show, what it means for the next year of games, the subsequent years after that, but also sort of the ways that, in my view, Geoff really stepped up his ability to advocate for and appreciate not only the medium of the games, but people who make them. I thought it was quite an astounding show, and so I think it deserves a lot of praise, particularly from someone like me who is routinely extremely critical about what Geoff Keighley does. So it's going to be a big discussion. Buckle up, buckle in, saddle up, saddle down, pack a lunch. Tucker, where do you want to start with this this discussion in TGA?
Well, you've got this claim of, it's good for the industry and, you've listened to problems. But my thesis here today, and I said it last night at the end of our live reaction, is that this, from multiple angles, and I'm joking about, it's good for the industry. I do think that as well. And this is part of what leads me to making this thesis. I think that was the best video game showcase that has ever happened. I think that it had the highest caliber announcements and the highest number of high caliber announcements. I think it had some of the best balance between announcements that were from major things and then also seeing some newer stuff. I think it had for an award show, and especially for TGA and a Geoff show, all the people that were accepting their speeches accepting their awards got to talk for as long as they wanted to. There was like significant conversation about the state of the industry, like at consistent points throughout the show. Everyone was just there. Everyone seemed like they had a good time. Like, this was the best version of the TGA because it listened to the critiques of what the shows had been before. But I think even if you stripped out the award show stuff and made this an E3 presentation that was just the trailers back to back, people would say this is the best showcase of all time. And I think that I think it is. And I think that frankly, I think it's almost not even close. Or at least I'd have to really and I probably will go through and list off the best ones ever and try to piece them together in my mind. But I was flabbergasted. I think the only issue I have is that I think that it was paced a little strangely. I wish that some of the major announcements had been spread out more across the course of the runtime, and that would have, I think, made it perfect. But everything has flaws. That was the flaw of this one, and that is piss and change, and a drop in the gigantic bucket that was the thundering success of last night's show.
Yeah, I definitely want to get into the awards. I want to get into your claim because I think you're right in the sense that there's never been a show that has so decisively gathered so many of the largest studios across the industry in one place to share announcements. But I want to focus a little bit more first on what Geoff did for the industry and for the awards.
Yeah.
There's still obvious room for improvement in my view. I still think he rattles off far too many awards either
on the side,
on the side or in the pre-show. I think that there's room for improvement.
Well, pre-show's interesting. I actually want to praise the pre-show for a little bit because I think that was one of the best pre-shows in terms of announcements. But in terms of the awards, that was, I think, the most awards that were given that almost everyone had the people got the award, come up on stage and not talk for as long, but they gave their speeches. We got to see Nicholas Doucette up there. We got to see these people talk about their games, and so I think that was a good use of that. And also, I like the fact that they're promoting the pre-show as a part of the show. I mean, they say that's when the show starts, on all social media. And so I agree that there's a little bit of a disconnect there, but for what this show was, I think that was the best way they could have handled that. And Sydney
Yeah.
Goodman did a great job, maybe a better job than Geoff Keighley.
I mean, she's an amazing host at any event. She's an amazing host. I think ultimately for me, it's a semantics thing, but I just think that as Geoff gets closer and closer to the sort of ideal celebration of his nominees and award winners, I just think there's a little bit more tuning to do.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, I mainly want to point out his introduction of the Game Changers Award.
Yeah.
And I just checked it out here. I'm going to put this article from IGN in the description. But this is an award that went to a gentleman named Amir Satvat, whose work in sort of the elevator pitch for what he does is that his role in the industry is helping displaced games workers find new jobs and to give them counseling and support and anything he can at free of charge to help them after being displaced in these routine mass layoffs we've seen this year. And sort of my overarching criticism of the Game Awards for years at this point has been Geoff's sort of inability or unwillingness to reckon with the larger industry issues that play games.
Yeah.
And I thought that he did a truly phenomenal job last night, dedicating this section to the work that Amir does and using it as a way to spin and find positivity and find an empowering narrative in the disempowering state of games. I think that this is actually even better than him coming out and giving just some sort of condemnatory monologue about the layoffs. Yeah. He does that. He acknowledges it in no unclear terms. And then he finds a way and finds a person who is turning this into an opportunity for good and an opportunity to help the people whose jobs have been lost. It is sort of the least platitudinal thing he could have possibly done. I was really, truly impressed. And it is, in my view, a necessary change for the Game Awards. And it's one that I frankly just simply didn't think Geoff would make. So I'm really happy about that. And I think that alone, to me, makes this a much more relevant and useful show. Because what I've always said is, it's not just that I want him to pay lip service. It's that the stream we were watching on YouTube alone was at 1.2 million concurrent viewers. It's outrageous. That's a lot of people who are not dialed in. It's a lot of casual people who don't have a deep understanding of games. To bring these issues to them, to bring this kind of advocacy to them, I think it opens up a wider discourse and brings more people into the conversation that, in my view, is even more important than the art itself. So I'm just really impressed. And I think Geoff deserves a significant amount of credit for doing what he did and handling it the way that he did.
Absolutely. And I think the extent to which that theme and that care pervaded the entire show, I think, is what really blew me away. Because he's mentioned in the past, I think it was that like SGF is like, okay, yeah, there's a lot of layoffs this year. It's been a tough time for the industry, but there's still hope. Here are some games. Obviously, like that's kind of what it's been in the past. And that's kind of what, when people give these presentations at award shows, it's usually what it ends up like. But I think that the fact that this Game Changer section was not only him coming up on stage and talking for as long as he wanted, which was great. And clearly he's not like a PR focused guy. He just kind of felt like a dude who cared a lot, who was on stage, which gave it a really genuine tenor. But also there was like a 5-minute, really well produced like interview documentary that they just presented. They showed, this wasn't like 30 seconds spliced in between ads like we've seen like the Future Class or like Black Voices in gaming. Like they've had these things in the past, but he came out on stage. He said, this is something we're doing. He stepped back. He let the voices of the people that were impacted and were involved in this speak for themselves in a really well produced interview documentary segment. And then the guy came up on stage and was like, oh my God. And that I think set a really great groundwork for then. I think this was also the greatest amount of industry people coming up on stage and talking about that. For everyone from Sven Vinke, from Larian, giving an amazing speech to close out the night about how important it is to treat your workers properly, and that's really what carries the industry forward and ultimately ends up getting good product and then good profits. And the acceptance that PlayStack did for Local Thunk about Balacho. There's multiple mentions of how the indie industry is something that has a lot of potential for the future of the medium. And then also Team Asobi, Nicholas Doucette giving these speeches about how a small team and passionate creators and talking to each other about ideas. Like, I think we just had like 4 or 5 different avenues across the course of the show where it was like, no, this is like a really healthy way to approach this. And it wasn't just Geoff. It wasn't just the announcers. It was speeches. It was things that were planned. It was Geoff bringing his A game on that. It was this Amir Satmak guy giving like one of probably the best speech in the history of the entire 10 years of the show. Like, this was an all hands on deck. Like, everyone felt like they were kind of coming together for it. And I think that was really what blew me away.
Yeah, absolutely. And also I like the celebrity cameos. I think they're funny. I don't take the issue with them. People do, but they have been excessive, and they weren't excessive this year.
No, absolutely not. I mean, honestly, the only one I didn't like was the one that was most relevant, which was the 2 Dina actresses coming on stage and making like the most annoying, cringy, fucking Oscar ass like joke bit. But like, I mean, look, Shannon Woodward as Dina in Last of Us 2 is one of my favorite video game performers of all time. Like, I'm not saying she shouldn't be there, but the writing was just stupid.
there was no Timothy Chalamet doing Game of the Year, Al Pacino having no fucking clue where he was. It just didn't happen.
Simu Liu, Anthony Mackie, like
I think Geoff he got it, and obviously
the closest was Harrison Ford. Not wanting to be there and not wanting to read the teleprompter and mispronouncing Melina Jurgen's name.
It seems like what happened is we sort of thought, oh, can he not read the teleprompter? It seems like he was asked him to like skip through shit, is what it seemed like. But even still, I get it. He's there for indie. There was at least a function to it.
And we got the great lineup of the 3-stage evolution of people involved in Indiana Jones.
We did. So, I mean, I think we can close the book on that. I think we've said that piece, but I think the show as a whole was really much more conscious of the larger context of games, and that's what's important.
The last thing I will say about that is I think this was, I wish that had happened earlier, but this was the right time to do this. Like, there is easily an alternate 10th anniversary Game Awards that is much more commercialized than this. And I think this was the best Game Awards. It was the biggest Game Awards. I'm sure it had the highest viewership, and this was the time. This was the time they tripled down on introducing these aspects and talking about things and having people like, I mean, frankly, even like having the Muppets make jokes about the state of the industry. Like, this was the moment to bring all hands on deck and put it in front of the biggest audience that might have ever watched a video game show, period.
I think it really puts in the show into a different context. And I think that a lot of the usual criticism doesn't apply. And when I was still seeing it online last night, to me, that was just people being out of step with what Geoff has done now. It's not a pattern yet, right? But I assume that this is a turning point. Because I would be quite disappointed if Geoff regressed from this point. But I truly don't think he will. I truly think that Geoff is often not given enough benefit of the doubt. I think that my frustration with him on some level was always that he didn't leverage his status and care more to have more space in his own platform to speak his own mind. And clearly, I don't know what happened behind the scenes for him to be able to do that, what levers he pulled or force he exerted. But the end result is, in my view, I think a wholly endorsable and for once, I think totally positive celebration of where games are. So it just really, really, really good stuff. Now, obviously, what we want to talk mostly about are the games. Are there any particular wins that you wanted to highlight before we did?
Let me pull up the winners here.
I have to say, for me, it was quite predictable, which I don't say as a criticism. To me, it simply is, okay, these are meeting the marks that I expected. I don't really have that much to say other than the fact that I'm supremely happy for Asobi. It was of those 6. I keep saying, with no monkey ball in competition. It's the obvious choice. So I'm very pleased for them. Otherwise, I think the awards are they all are logical to me.
Yeah, well, I think that there was no bad or weird winners.
Yeah.
Like, where I'm like, oh, that's not deserved. But I also think that the reason why I would select this as maybe one of my favorite batches of winners is because it was incredibly balanced. And I think that shows what a diverse year of games this was, and how there wasn't a dominant game like we've seen Elden Ring or God of War or Last of Us or Breath of the Wild be in previous years. Every single one of the Game of the Year nominees, except for actually Elden Ring, I think, won an award. Or actually, 5 out of 6 of them won multiple awards. There was multiple Wukong wins, there was multiple Astra wins, multiple Balatro wins, multiple Metaphor wins, and multiple Final Fantasy wins. And that is really nice to see.
Yeah.
And I think that made that... I think in the moment, it definitely gave a great tenor to seeing people come up on stage, and like, it wasn't just the same team coming back up. It wasn't just Rockstar. It wasn't just Santa Monica coming back up stage over and over again, which can get a little bit tiring. There's a lot of diverse speeches. Everyone got to thank their teams, except for From Software. And I also meant that by the end of the night, there wasn't a clear direction that it was going for what was going to win Game of the Year. And so I think it gave it a more interesting experience as I was watching. Like, okay, I got to see many people talk about why they were passionate and excited about their games doing so well. And by the very end, I mean, I thought that I think Metaphor actually might have gotten the most wins. And I was pretty confident that was going to happen. Like, honestly, it could be Final Fantasy. It could be Wukong. Like, it could be Balatro. Balatro won so many awards. Like, there was this really nice, like, I don't know what's going to happen, which I think it's probably only happened like 2 or 3 times in the 10-year history of the Game Awards. And so that made the experience of watching it a lot better, which you can't choose to have that happen, but I think it reflects an interesting year for games.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to having a sort of wider year-end conversation with 2024. Because I think that this show is...
Was it Horde?
It's somewhere between Sorf and Horde, I think. But let's get into the announcements. Let's get
right. People still do that anymore? Does he still do that show? Wait, what's that guy's name again?
Keemstar?
Keemstar, yeah. Does he still... He doesn't do that anymore, does he?
I don't know. I don't think he does anything
I've never
else.
seen that show.
You know what's weird about Keemstar? He loves gaming. And he did a house tour one time, and he has every GameCube game.
Holy shit, really? Abram, Keemstar owns Pikmin 2.
Yeah, he's probably beaten it.
He owns Geist.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's not relevant. Yes, the announcements were fucking insane. I don't really know how else to put that other than that.
Yeah. Where do we want to start? Which one do you want to start with?
Let's start with Turok.
Sure, why not? Well, I think Turok actually exemplifies a fascinating trend that we saw last night.
Yeah.
Which is crazy revivals of long, irrelevant, classic video game IP that, for the most part, look really damn good and are incredibly exciting, and I think will bring an interesting diversification, especially in IP, to the industry over the next couple of years. We got revivals of Turok, as you mentioned, but Onimusha and Ninja Gaiden and Virtua Fighter, and like, I mean, I have no connection to any of those series. Ninja Gaiden is the only one I've played any of.
Gaiden one.
But I really loved that there was surprises, because none of these games were rumored at all.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why Turok was sticking in my mind. I've never played Turok. I have no plans on playing Turok. There was a really good writer I used to edit the work of at CBR who loved Turok and would write about Turok. And I learned that there's a lot more Turok games than I thought there were. Yeah. So I'm sure he's out there writing about Turok Origins right now. I don't think it looks that good. Of this class of reboots, this one feels like it feels the most like reboot in name only.
Yeah,
like it seems.
It feels the most like 2007 reboot. The most like Bomberman gritty thing, Conquer Reloaded, Perfect Dark Zero.
No, it doesn't. Which one does, Tucker? Think about it. You missed a big one.
Wait,
Which
Huh?
classic franchise came back with the grittiest reboot? Think about it.
I mean, I would say it was Bomberman, but
No, that got announced last night.
Pac-Man.
Yes.
Yeah, true.
But no.
But I actually want to play that one, so I don't want to insult it.
That's fair enough. Yeah, I mean, it was interesting. It's interesting to see the IP that's being leveraged again. I mean, Turok is of some significance. I think it's interesting that it's Saber and Universal.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I actually think Saber is a pretty good pick because for developing. What? Oh, because Saber. Yeah, sure. I mean, fine. But Saber are the team that have been doing the really well regarded and popular and high quality Warhammer multiplayer games. So I think they're gonna. I don't think there's anything in that trailer that screamed like I'm going to play this.
Yeah.
But it's a reasonable confluence of factors.
I think they made the 2008 Turok game. Let me check.
Oh, Saber? Oh, interesting.
No, I'm wrong. It was made by Propaganda Games.
Oh, doesn't Jen Miller work for them?
Propaganda Games only made 2 reboot Turok games. That's all they ever made. Yeah, in 2008 and 2010. And then they were the ones that were going to make that big, cool Pirates of the Caribbean open world game that got canceled.
Interesting.
That's irrelevant, completely irrelevant information. Let's talk a little bit about some of those other ones you mentioned. I want to just shout out Ninja Gaiden. What is the subtitle? It's like Ragebound. It looks
great fucking name.
Yeah, it looks sick as hell. Dotemu Publishing is a great sign because they are the stewards of really great titles. So I don't have much to say about this one other than it looks sick as hell. I'm excited to play it.
To me, this is the Prince of Persia: Lost Crown of this year.
Yeah.
Of just, I mean, revitalizing 2D action games, and it looks. I mean, obviously no one's played it yet, but it looks incredibly high quality. And the track record of Game Kitchen, the Blasphemous team, I mean, their games have only gotten better. I haven't played them myself, but people love those games, and they do some of the best pixel art in the business. And this looks like it's only continuing that. And so, like, I mean, I have full confidence this is gonna be like an 8 or 9 out of 10, like amazing game, and great for them as well, just to get a big IP thing under their belt and probably revitalize it. I mean, I would not be surprised if this becomes something that we can see a couple games from over the course of the next decade. It looks really good.
It does. It's also a reminder for me. I need to play like Ninja Gaiden Black and Sigma.
Yeah.
All those Ninja Gaiden games.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk a little bit about Onimusha, which to me was
Onimusha.
Almost the announcement of the show.
Okay.
Beaten by a hair.
Yeah.
Can you guess what beat it for me?
Why is that the announcement of the show to you? Did you have any connection to Onimusha beforehand, or was it just like this specific trailer looks so good to you that it bumped it up?
No, I didn't either. I just think that there's not a Capcom game I've played that has released since they've had the renaissance with Resident Evil 7 that I've not thought was outstanding, or at least great.
What about Village? You didn't play much of that.
Okay, so, Resident Evil...
I found one!
Resident Evil outside of Resident Evil 4 and the remake Resident Evil 4 is fucking boring. There's not... Outside of those 2 games, there's not been a truly compelling Resident Evil game ever. So that's that. Yeah. Put that to the side. But there's something very tantalizing to me about Onimusha in that it is very much of the tradition of that early... It literally is that early PS2 era... Mm-hmm. Capcom that birthed Devil May Cry. Onimusha Warlords is cited in a lot of ways as the game of whose DNA was quite influential on DMC1. Mm-hmm. The idea of a new action game from Capcom, the Capcom operating at this caliber, to me is truly very exciting. When DMC5 is exceptional, Onimusha is not Devil May Cry. We did see gameplay. This isn't going to be that either. However, when I even think about how well executed the action mechanics of Kunitsugami were, in my view, I just don't see any world where I don't think that this is outstanding. So it's one of those announcements. It's my favorite type of announcement that I see and I go, wow, I can't wait to play that. But moreover, in the time I have now until that comes out, I'm super excited to go back to what Onimusha was, play through those, get familiarized, and get ready for this reboot. I and the art direction is beautiful. And like I said, a lot of my excitement rides on the prestige of the adjacent Capcom projects. So
totally, yeah.
I can't wait.
I think this is just another great needle on the pile of needles, or a haystack on the pile of haystacks. I don't know. Like, this is just, Capcom has been doing such a good job over the course of the last decade, almost. And I agree with you. I've enjoyed every one of their games I've played that I've played. And I'm glad that over the course of the last few years, they've been able to use this success that they've recaptured primarily with the success of Resident Evil and Monster Hunter, which have been hitting on all cylinders for the better part of a decade at this point, to diversify not only into new IP with things like Kunitsugami and Exoprimal and Pragmata, which are, I've played 2 of those games and I liked 2 of those games, and one of them is one of my most anticipated games, but also to step back into the large pool of IP that they have with this, and we'll talk about Okami and with Dragon's Dogma, and like really diversify things. And also they've been doing great with their collections and stuff. But this Onimusha trailer for me, I have no connection to Onimusha. I have connection to modern Capcom. I think they do an amazing job. But I also think that it was the art direction, it was the tone, it was for me the very clear Souls influence of the aesthetic and combat pacing that we saw in the trailer, which is very appealing to me. And then there's just this like animated key art of this gauntlet that has like an giant eyeball in the middle. I'm like, that's just such cool imagery that I can't wait. And it'll just be something that we see a couple of trailers for before it releases in 2026, and that's totally fine if it's over a year away. That doesn't bother me at all. I think it was perfect. It was one of the great announcements of the show. Absolutely.
Let's also talk about the Okami sequel. I think that this is the most interesting news of the night.
Sure.
In terms of
this to me is the most traditional Game Awards-y announcement, where it's like a thing is happening.
Yeah. I mean,
and it's like, well, we might see it in 5 years. Who the hell knows?
They even say
it's very Perfect Dark, very Wonder Woman, very Star Wars Eclipse. Like,
yeah, I mean,
all games that are not out yet.
The Okami Twitter account's active again now and posting again, obviously. Excuse me, and they even put out a tweet being like, "You might not hear from us for a while, but we're making another Okami." So I've not played Okami. I'm going to rectify that post haste, because I mean this game is probably going to come out in February, so I gotta hurry. But no, on a serious note, I think that these are the sorts of projects you're able to do when you are so dominant with the franchises you already mentioned.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Monster Hunter in particular, the amount of money they're going to make off of Wilds is about to subsidize another fleet of Kunitsugamis and Okami reboots and Exoprimals and all this shit. And that's what I really love about Capcom. And I made the claim last night that they might be the best publisher working right now. And I think that they certainly are, because they
well, and I think you can also draw the comparison to modern Nintendo, or like the last 2 years Nintendo that has been doing this exact same thing, like revitalizing old franchises, dipping back into more niche IP and genres, because they're just so dominant. They're able to seed the ground a little bit wider, and that's what we're seeing from both of them.
Investing the money from your biggest franchises back into yourself so you can do more. I think it's super cool.
So good, man.
Yeah,
so good.
It's just such a... I mean, it's the business model. It should be the business model. And I'm stoked. I really am excited to play Okami again. This is, again, like Onimusha for me, of saying, wow, this really moves me. This really means something. I want to go play the previous game and get it.
Yeah.
Moreover, I'm just really interested in the idea of Kamiya reforming Clover.
Yeah.
I was talking to Derek Bittner earlier, and he said, we don't know where Mikami went. What if Mikami is back at Clover, and they're back at Clover together?
Well, what would be frankly even more exciting to me is, sure, Clover's is Mikami and Kamiya back together again. For the 4th time, just like starting new studios together. But that full circle moment that I think really contributed to this feeling sort of historic to me is like there's a 20-year lineage here of multiple studios that Kamiya and IP that Kamiya has started in his lineage with Capcom, and him being one of the most prolific and influential designers and directors of all time. And Okami being something that he clearly has a great passion for, but the real kicker would be if you're right, if Mikami goes back to this, which maybe not, who the hell knows. He did actually kind of leave around the same time that Camille left Platinum.
Yeah.
He left Tango. But I hope that Mikami is at Clover's and he has another IP that he's working on. Because one interesting, none of this is necessarily confirmed or denies anything, but one interesting tidbit that I saw online earlier is that Clover's is getting assistance from like 2 other studios to make Okami 2,
Sure.
Okami sequel, which is funny that it just says the sequel in giant letters on the fucking stage. But yeah, it's a fascinating announcement. It has this really interesting lineage. Like, this is a legendary gaming announcement moment. We'll just have to see when the game happens. Like, it feels like the most far away thing that we saw, except for maybe Witcher. But actually, that might be sooner, frankly.
I don't think so.
We'll talk about that in a bit.
The real gambit is if Mikami is there and they're making DMC together. That's the real gambit.
Yeah.
Now,
what was Mikami's role on DMC?
I don't remember, but they worked on it together.
Yeah.
The first one. Obviously...
Oh, and wait. Maybe Ichino is there as well.
No, sadly, we know that he's not.
No, he has a studio at Tencent or something like that, right? Or NetEase?
He's
one
doing
of those
some
fuckers?
fucking... He's not...
He's
not doing what he should be doing, is the important point there.
You're right, he hasn't earned to do what he wants. He hasn't earned it right.
He earned that right.
He hasn't worked hard enough.
He earned that right in fucking 2005 when he played on DMC 3. I just somebody make a character action game, please. Somebody. Kamiya, Mikami, if you guys want to do it, great. Ichigo, if you want to do it, great. I don't know. Tucker, let's talk next about Witcher, because I don't really have anything to say about it. Do you?
No. I think that this is, collectively, this is probably, on sales numbers, this is probably the biggest announcement
I think it's the most
of the night. But it's also very clearly the one that you and I have the least reverence for, interest in, out of the lineup of big announcements. But this is the one, to me, where on the pile of other ones that you and I care a little bit more about that we still haven't yet gotten to, this is the announcement of the night and contributes to this being one of the best, I would say the best video game announcement showcase of all time. CD Projekt Red has done a very interesting thing over the course of the last 10 years. They became quite dominant and prolific and made a shitload of money on Witcher 3, which won Game of the Year. Then they were able to turn Cyberpunk back around, which is a crazy, crazy feat for them. And now it seems like they are really hunkering down. They're being super transparent about where their resources are going. And this is their next major project. And I think what's interesting about it being their next major project is I said that this Witcher, I think, is the farthest one away, but I don't know. Obviously, we have no idea what the scope of this game or the effort being put into this game or Okami sequel is right now. But I don't think that this is a 2028, 2029 game or whatever, because their last game was in 2020. I think
it's 2026.
I agree, and I think that's phenomenal.
Never mind. I think this is before Okami 2.
Yeah, but this is a matchup deal, and I'm sure the trailer was great to someone who cared, but 7 minutes is a little bit much. Well, I mean, I guess they've earned it, whatever, but wasn't really paying attention.
I mean, it's not technically an announcement because we knew that they were making the next Witcher game. To your point, CD Projekt has been so overt about just saying this is what we're doing. This is how our teams are split up. So we know also that it's a different group of people than the Cyberpunk people. So it could indeed actually be I rescind. Okami's definitely further away. But it's
because they also said for Okami that it's starting development. Maybe I'm sure that the deal for Clovers was inked 3 months ago or something like that. But Witcher 4 is a big deal, and I'm sure it'll be a great game because I think they're probably not going to fuck this one up.
I'm actually quite intrigued to at some point play Witcher 3.
On your Switch.
To some degree. I did buy it on Switch. I did buy Switcher.
Don't play it on your fucking Switch, April.
I don't have it anymore. I gave it.
I have it on Steam. Just play it on fucking Steam Deck.
Yeah, we'll play it on Steam Deck. Like there's such.
You can play it on mobile and you'll actually be able to see things.
There's a profound layer of dust on my Steam Deck right now.
Well, it's because you sprinkled dust on it earlier.
Right.
It's not about how long ago you used it. It's because you keep a bag of dust in your pocket and you just go shh.
Yeah, I mean, I love Cyberpunk, so I think I just need to give Witcher another chance. But
Yeah.
enough of that
Fantasy slop.
nonsense. Um, Tucker, did they make any? Are they making games still?
Who? Who?
Just
Just
people?
people?
Are they
Just
still making
developers out there?
games? Are there other games to talk about?
Yes, I think so.
Let's
I think
talk
that's
about.
true. Now, I have a handwritten notes of everything that was announced. Um, I'll just jump into something that we haven't talked about. I do think we should mention Shadow Labyrinth, which is
What
the
is that?
Pac-Man
Oh,
Metroidvania. That I think looks pretty cool and is really fascinatingly timed with the secret level episode that people say is actually really good. And it's just such a bold reimagining
yeah.
that I can't help but be intrigued. I can't say that it looks like a 9 out of 10, like from what the gameplay that we saw, but it's just so crazy that they're doing this to like the video game IP of all time.
What's the name again?
That
Shadow Legion.
Shadow Labyrinth.
Labyrinth.
Because because it's a labyrinth, because it's a maze game, because it's Pac-Man.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I can't believe that this is a thing.
I'm just trying to look. Do we know who's making it?
It's some Bandai Namco's internal team. I'm not familiar enough with Namco's
see.
internal teams, but yeah, it's like literally like some creative business use it for or whatever.
Maybe it's the team that made Mario Baseball back in the day.
Maybe, bro, maybe.
I think it looks a little. It's a little. It looks a little. To be honest, it looks a little. But I think it's also interesting to me that it doesn't. It's just a little. It doesn't acknowledge that it's a Pac-Man game, which I think is interesting.
Oh, and the logo, the shadow, the Owen shadow is wide because Pac-Man is like eating his way through it.
Yeah.
And then there are like these, there are like these things they look like Pac-Man maze things, and there's pellets around the side, and then you summon a giant shadow Pac-Man that chomps the enemies.
This isn't fair, but it occupies the
Great
same...
way to start a sentence.
It occupies the same space in my brain as that King Kong Metroidvania that came out a couple months ago.
I don't even think I heard about that.
Yeah, they made a King Kong. You play as like a human guy, and King Kong's attacking you. It's a Metroidvania. It's a 2.5D action Metroidvania. Let's talk about a different game.
Sure, no, that's totally fair. What about Slow Clap's new game was announced called Rematch. Slow Clap, the studio behind Sifu, a game both of us played and think is awesome.
I thought
Sifu's
that died
fucking
for a while.
sick. Yeah, so was I. Yeah, funny you mentioned that. But they have the new game called Rematch releasing next year, and it's an action soccer game. And that doesn't necessarily mean anything to me. This, to me, for my personal engagement with it, rings as I hope this drops on PS Plus at some point so I can try it for 30 minutes. But it's probably something they're super passionate about, and so good for them. I hope that it's great, and I hope that people enjoy it.
It's actually more intriguing an idea than I initially gave it credit for when I was watching.
Sure.
Because I don't think, other than like that Captain Tsubasa anime game, which I don't even know is this, to be sure.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any soccer games from this POV. It's actually quite a novel idea.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Basically, all sports all sports games are sims. And even on a wider role, if you include arcade stuff that exists, it's basically all isometric to some degree. So,
well, there's Roller Champions. Continue.
This was a Crayola Scoot.
There's also a Crayola Scoot.
Yeah, so it's intriguing. I'm not a massive fan of seafood, to be honest, and I have no affinity for the real world game of soccer. So it's not for me. I don't think.
Yeah, but it for me, even though it isn't a game that I'm like personally. I want to play it at some point just because I think it's interesting and I like that team. But to me, it's just a good addition where it's like, oh, the next game from the team that made Sifu? Like, yeah, sure, that's a perfect place to see that. Cool, good for them.
Yeah, you can play it and you can be a gooner.
Sorry. Oh, that's the thing. It's a soccer. Okay, we don't need to talk about that. I just want to touch on Catley.
The game does the game use AI?
I don't know. People are saying it a lot online.
Well,
I don't know where they're getting that. I don't know where they're getting that. It's a weird fucking trailer. No gameplay. Apparently playable on your Apple Watch, but
Apple Watch and Nintendo Switch.
Yeah. Do you think that the Switch version will just have like a square in the middle of the screen that you touch? I don't know, man. It's very weird.
I don't know.
I just wanted to mention it. We don't really need to talk about Borderlands 4. It looks like more Borderlands. Interesting. Well, I do want to mention that interesting that it wasn't like a comedic trailer, which basically every Borderlands trailer for all time has been.
Trojan horse.
I get, yeah, I mean, maybe, probably. Though, I mean, everything about the marketing of this game so far, including the trailer last night, which is the biggest indicator, is a little more serious. So there is a chance this isn't as comedic a game, because that's all that's been indicated so far. But you're also probably right that it's just like a Trojan horse, like
gritty
get people in the
reboot of Borderlands.
Yeah,
it's the same, but they don't talk about cock and balls in this one.
But that's like Borderlands 4 gameplay trailer. Like that should, again, this is another addition. I don't care about it, but it's a big deal, and it looks fine enough.
Sophisticated Borderlands be like posterior stallion.
Where do you want to go next?
Talk about Split Fiction.
Yeah, let's
talk about Joseph Fares.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Just in general.
I'm not really a player of Joseph Fares' games.
Mm-hmm.
Which is not a commentary on their quality at all.
Yeah.
But
it's that you don't like working together with others.
I just don't like playing co-op games. I like to play games.
That's exactly what I said, word for word.
Yeah. It's just that I play games myself, and if I'm playing a multiplayer thing, it's like it's a modular experience. It's like Mario Kart or Shoots and Ladders or something.
Yeah, of course. Or Tiddlywinks, yeah.
Or Tiddlywinks.
I keep seeing the meme going around Game of the Year is Tiddlywinks.
Or Hoop and Stick. But I just want to say, I think that Joseph Fares Joseph Fares knows ball in a way that nobody else in the games industry does.
Yeah.
He is, as I said, he has a charisma and an attractiveness that can't be earned. It can only be intrinsic to your being.
Yeah.
I think he just has this passion for the industry and a creative vision that is truly, truly singular. Even because we saw like the Overcooked team making their sort of co-op multiplayer game, and it looks cool, but I just think that there is a unique touch that Hazelight has, and I think that it is from Joseph Fares. His enthusiasm is amazing. The fact that he is directing the cameras to go look at his kids is amazing. He just seems like genuinely the sort of truly positive force for the furthering of games that the industry needs more of. I think Joseph Fares is awesome. I just wish that he would make like a single player platformer or something.
Yeah. I always thought he made something a little more traditional. But I agree with all that, and I think for me,
good shirt, by the way.
Oh yeah, he was dripped to the nines last night.
What's the complicated shirt? Complicated.
Oh, Dan Flashes. Yeah, he had a Dan Flashes shirt on. I think that he is. He might be the person in the games industry I respect the most. Yeah, because not only does he make games that I really love. I mean, since literally the first time I saw him at EA's 2017 or 2018 E3 press conference, and he came out on stage. He's like, "This game's gonna be awesome, man. You don't even know. I put my heart and soul in it. It's gonna be the best game you ever play. If you say it's not, you're wrong. You're wrong. I love this so much." And then he shows up at that Game Awards. He says, "Fuck the Oscars." Yeah. That game comes out. I really like it. I picked that game up day one. I still rewatched that A Way Out trailer. It Takes Two comes out, wins Game of the Year. I think is better. I think is one of the best games of the last few years. And that game sold what, like 25 million copies or something absolutely fucking asinine like that. Like this is a unique, passionate creative that is brutally fucking honest. He comes on stage. He's like, "Look, EA has some problems. They've been good to me though, and like this is my family." And like he apparently every time he hires someone new, it's like just throw your ideas at the wall, like shout at other people. Like he's like the fucking crazy like Andy Warhol of the fucking games industry. And he comes on stage, everyone loves him. He like is cheering for everyone's wins, like he's handing the trophy to Larian last year. Like it's just like he's the force. And then Split Fiction also looks fucking awesome. Yeah. And people have already played it and say it's probably his best game, and it's coming out in 2 months, and you only need to buy one copy to play online with your friend. Like everything about this is win, 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 and it's gonna probably sell 20 million copies, and it's one of the best things happening for EA. And it looks like they've quadrupled down on the amount of interesting gameplay mechanics that they've put in there. I heard one thing about what he was telling some of the press when they were playing it is they're like, look, we have this idea, like we want to have a little fighting game segment, we want to have a different kind of gameplay segment, and we know how this stuff is supposed to feel, so we're gonna spend just like a month polishing this one aspect of it. It's like, but there's like 400 aspects, and like we'll just fucking do it because it's important, and it's just like, I mean, like that's probably one of my 5 most anticipated games of next year. I mean, I think it'll probably be phenomenal, and so that was one of the absolute massive highlights of the show. And one thing I also want to shout out is I love that obviously he's very integrated his personality into these games, into like making sure that people associate it with him. The trailer where he's talking about it and it's his voice talking about how awesome it is and saying, he's like, look at the big ass dragon, and like he's got this like thing. He's like, in the trailer he's talking about how awesome his game is. I'm like, this is an energy that no one else dares to have in the games industry. Like, even like the most respected creators, someone like Kojima or Miyamoto, like they take a very like they present what they're talking about, and then they stand there and answer questions. But Joseph Fares is like, no, my game's fucking awesome, guys. Like, look how cool this is. And I love that. I love that.
It's wicked. He's wicked.
And he's hot as fuck.
Yeah. Yes. Tucker, in my view, there are 2 more games.
Period. Oh, well, quickly, I just want to mention, you brought up Ghost Town, the Overcooked developers. They've only made the Overcooked games, Overcooked 1 and 2. Amazing games, very influential, very popular. I've enjoyed them a lot when I've played of them. I think that it is great that they're doing something new, so they're not just known as the Overcooked guys. They've made 2 great games that people love. But I also think that it's very cool that this is very clearly inspired by the success that Hazelight has had, because co-op games are few and far between. And it's good to have people inspire others. Like, I'm also glad that Hazelight's not the only ones doing it now. And so I'm absolutely looking forward to that game as well. So
that's cool.
Great for Ghost Town, great for diversification of and a breadth of the co-op adventure game genre. I'm glad that both of them was there because it like signaled something to me. I'm like, yeah, I'm in for all this. And that was also a funny trailer. I loved the bit at the beginning, like from Ghost Town Games. Who? Oh, the Overcooked developers. Oh yeah. Good bit.
As just a sidebar, I would love to see Nintendo tackle a game like this.
Sure.
Co-op game.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Sorry, there's 3 games, I think.
There are let's see, 1 2 3 4 5 games I still want to talk about.
Is Wuthering Waves one of them?
Nope.
It's not one of mine either.
Glad we can agree on something for once.
Well, you throw out another one then, because 3 of ours are the same.
Well, 2 of them are one thing, which is...
Well, 3 of them are
have you heard? Wow, that's fucking amazing. Have you heard of this little team called Ryuga Gotoku? Who have 2 games coming out next year, and just announced 2 more games last night. What? Huh?
Tucker,
you mentioned earlier that what did you said some team was like the exemplary like example of what the industry should be in terms of health. You talked about fucking someone. Who the hell knows?
I don't remember.
Oh wait, no. Also, there's 6 games. We still haven't talked about another one. But Ryuga Gotoku is the Yakuza team, and they put out Infinite Wealth earlier this year, which received 9s and 10s across the board, and is one of the best JRPGs of the last few years. I haven't played it myself, but every time I saw gameplay of the game, I'm like, I need to play this. This looks hilarious. They just announced that they're doing a remake port of Virtua Fighter 5 for PC, so that's coming out in a couple months. And also Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii, which is the funniest titled game ever, is coming out next February, and that looks silly and goofy and fun. And then last night, they announced that they're doing a Virtua Fighter game, which they've never made a fighting game before. And also they're doing like a totally new game, which is like a 1915 Japan bloody beat-em-up action game.
Project Century.
Called Project Century. And both of them look cool as hell, and Ryuga Gotoku is one of the best to fucking do it right now. Oh, and they made Monkey Ball earlier this year, and I forgot to mention that.
Game of the year. Ryuga Gotoku.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't play their games, but partially because, like what would I... what am I supposed to do, really? You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Like, what am I supposed to do? So the idea of this Project Century game, I thought actually looked quite cool.
It looks really good.
That's the sort of thing I would be interested in. Fresh start, fresh open, new horizons for Ryuga
Yeah.
Gotoku. So I mean, what is there to even say about them, really? How do they do it?
I don't know, because I honestly I can't fathom it. It doesn't make any
Here's how
sense.
they do it. I know they came to me last night and they whispered in my ear.
Oh, okay.
They efficiently reuse technology and assets.
Yeah.
And they're an illustration of why the gamer refrain of reuse animations is so silly and so dumb.
Yeah.
Because the sort of creative output you can have when you build upon the same skill set and tool set and iterate and find your niche is really outstanding. I think that they are as you're saying, a shining example of a way to, move through this industry so successfully. And to see them say, okay, we're going to take these tenets, we're going to take these tools, we're going to apply them now to new projects as they did with Judgment however many years ago, is very compelling. I think it's super cool. I'm really excited actually to keep an eye on both of these. I think they're much more up my alley than Yakuza number 38, simply because it is 38.
Totally.
A huge night, and it's huge to say, okay, we're gonna have 2 reveal trailers back to back for 2 games.
For totally new games.
Very cool.
And also because we also have 2 games that are still coming out, and we just put out 2 games this year. Like they are working on a level that is fucking unheard of by humankind. I remember what we were talking about earlier, which was Nintendo and Capcom using their massive successes to subsidize a wider variety of smaller games. But RGG is interesting in that their games they found an audience. They found a level to consistently output games and budget things properly so they can reach the audience that they're looking for, and that is really good for the health of the industry.
They're a lot like Omega Force in that way.
Sure. Yeah.
It's not a coincidence that Japan just does it better than the rest of the world. I think when it comes to development practice, this is not about the output necessarily, but development practice, labor practice. I think there's a lot that studios around the globe can learn from the way that Japan has organized its games labor and the way that they make games. Yeah. Mafia: The Old Country.
Oh, sure. Yeah. That wasn't even one of mine.
It wasn't one of mine either.
Oh, okay.
I think Mafia Definitive Edition, which came out in probably 2021, might have been 2020.
Yeah. No, that sounds right.
Is an outstanding.
Oh, no, it was 2020. It was definitely 2020. Yeah.
And to hear that this one as well, like that title, is going to be a linear, narrative, third-person shooter action game, cannot wait. Summer next year, I think I'm going to love that. That's all I want to say about it. But it's
looks good.
Super cool.
Good job to Hangar 13, who put out Top Spin 2K25 this year, and apparently that's shit.
Game of the Year nominee, Top Spin.
That is, you're right. Game Award 2024 nominee. That's Top fucking ridiculous. Speaking of Japanese development teams with very consistent output and healthy business practices, one Mr. Hidetaka Miyazaki runs his fucking studio From Software as the tightest ship known to man, and on a 3-year streak of Game of the Year caliber games, they announced another one coming out next year. What? What the fuck are you talking about? Who made this? Where are you people coming from? I don't know, but it looks sick, and it's apparently something very different for them structurally. And so, Elden Ring Nightreign looks awesome, and is one of the most anticipated games of next year. I can't fucking wait.
Billed as a co-op survival game.
Yeah, and it's also kind of roguelike-y from what I've heard, is that it's meant to be played in like a 2-hour cycle of like you explore this world that's slightly different every time, and every time you lose, you get a little bit of currency to like upgrade these classes that you've gotten, and they build up. The map shrinks down over the course of the day, and then by the 3rd day, you fight a massive boss, and it's 4-player co-op. So it's like from every angle, it's something totally different for them. But again, efficient reuse of assets. Yes. This is reusing Elden Ring maps and textures and physics and assets, but also, and something that people are really excited about and making fun of us for in our trailer reaction, it's reusing bosses from previous FromSoft games. There are other like Dark Souls bosses and characters in this Elden Ring game. And like that is really smart reuse of assets. You spend probably months and months and months perfecting this epic boss with amazing patterns and great animations, and you did that 7 years ago for Dark Souls 3, which is a great game. Just plop it in here, and it seems like they've upgraded the movement. And there's this bird you can glide around. You climb up a wall, and like it's just like this is the ideal like secondary team learning from things, like putting it out on a consistent pace. And Aaron, we got a new FromSoft game announced last night. Like there is very few things in the industry bigger than that, and I think we got 2 things in the industry bigger than that last night.
Yes, we did. Only thing I'll say about this, I don't play FromSoft because I'm stupid. Like I just suck at these games. I can't. I get so pissed off. I'm not any good at them. I'm not good at them. But
you can play it with the boys.
I think that this is also an interesting response in some ways to the real viral success of Elden Ring.
Yeah.
In my view. And the amount of massive streamers and people who have gotten a lot of endless entertainment and captivated massive audiences doing co-op mod runs Elden Ring. I would not be surprised if in the design document there are Ludwig streams cited or things. I think that this is a smart approach.
Yeah, it's also a response to the seamless Elden Ring mods that have been incredibly popular, because in Souls games you have to like find a fucking umbilical cord item and like shove it down a monster's throat to unlock having your friend in the world to play the game with you. And now there are mods that allow you to just play the whole game together that have been incredibly popular. And they look at that and like, oh, well, we can just give the people what they want, and this is going to be one of the biggest games next year. And also, again, like It Takes Two, Elden Ring is one of the biggest games ever. And so building on that momentum, understanding why it appealed to people, and executing on it with smart budgeting, good timing, and like this is the perfect moment. 2.5 years after the release of Elden Ring and the obviously amazing reception of its DLC, to continue that momentum with something that is different enough and standalone and appeals to the streamer market in a way of having it be co-op and a little bit shorter and like just one more run. Like this is going to be big next year. I will say, I think that this is structurally different enough to where I don't think it'll be as well received, but I don't think it won't be as successful or popular. But I don't think it's going to be a Game of the Year nominee next year, because this is something so different from them. This is not an adventure game. This is not curated levels that they're so known for. It's a roguelike survival co-op game. Like this is something different, which I think is good. But I don't think we necessarily need to. I don't think we're necessarily looking down the barrel of like third time in 4 years that Elden Ring is being nominated for Game of the Year. But I think that's okay.
Tucker, are we down to the last 2 games?
I think so, yeah.
Wicked, epic, you might even say.
Sonic Racing Crossroads. Whatever. It's gonna be a fucking racing game. Stupid that it was like a 3-second teaser. Even Geoff thought that was funny.
Yeah, I don't know why they did that. I think Team Sonic Racing's a good game. I know it gets a lot of shit in the community for being a step back from racing transformed, but I think it's a good game, and I'm sure this will be too. But okay.
Oh, actually, there is one other game, because I know the 2 that you're thinking of. But Outer Worlds 2 got a full trailer last night, and it looks awesome.
Yes.
And Obsidian's putting out 2 massive games next year. What the hell? How? I mean, presumably that's just because Avowed got delayed into 2025. But that's crazy, and I almost hope that they give Outer Worlds 2 another 6 months in the oven and put it out early 2026, because I just don't see much benefit to putting out both of these games within the same calendar year. But it looks great, and I enjoyed Outer Worlds, so I'm definitely going to play that, and it's a massive surprise and proves again another very healthy studio full of diverse projects and good timing and reuse of assets, and like scope management. That I can't wait for that game.
I have to suspect that. Well, we know that we're getting Avowed in February.
Yeah.
If you got this in October or November as a holiday game, I think that makes a lot of good sense, especially because Avowed's a fairly short game in the scope of RPGs.
Yeah, and it's probably still will Outer Worlds 2.
Yeah, if they're both 20-30 hour games, I think they're distinct enough for it to make sense.
Oh yeah.
But we'll see. I can't wait. I love the first game. So let's talk about Wuthering Waves. You said this one's bigger than Elden Ring. I liked your tweet about this game, Tucker, about Project Robot.
Project Robot. Yeah, I made a meme earlier about Project Giant Robot, which is a Nintendo prototype from the Wii U era. And I said, "Welcome back, Project Giant Robot."
It's technically only canceled insofar as that version didn't come out because that was used for the
Yeah.
Labo kit.
Yeah, Labo Kit 2. Yeah.
Toy-Con 02
Yeah.
robot kit.
Robot Kit. Yeah. Fumito Ueda announced his next game today, which
In a manner of speaking.
yeah, I mean, kind of. Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
As much as Last Guardian was announced in 2006 or whatever.
I think, yeah, I mean, there's not much to derive from this ultimately.
Yeah.
It's interesting because obviously it evokes Shadow of the Colossus.
Yeah.
As you're climbing up this creature, then the art direction is quite arresting, but ultimately we got so little that even though this is a announcement of massive significance given Ueda's status and the infrequency of his games, I just feel as though there's really nothing for me to grab onto from this, which is not to take away from what the game will likely be, but as it exists now, it doesn't. I don't really have much.
And it's also quite ironic given the mechanics of Fumito Ueda's game that you can't grab onto it. But yeah, it's interesting because I feel that this is not going to end up being a Last Guardian situation
I don't think so either.
In which that game was announced for PS3 incredibly early, and then it went silent for like 5 years or something like that, and then reemerged and then came out and was, people like it, but not too much. I think that this has been cooking for so long that I think that this is maybe a 2026 game, like late 2026, maybe early 27 or something. It's not ridiculously far away. And this to me is emblematic of, even though it is a trailer without a name and without a ton of gameplay, it's a very good tone setter, phenomenal tone setter. But this is exemplifies. This is a anniversary to the celebration. We like let's get big things, because you look back at the E3 2015 or whatever it was when Last Guardian was revealed, and that's one of the big things that people cite as making that one of the biggest or best press conferences of all time.
Yeah.
We just got that again for Fumito at his next game, and I think it looks awesome. So I'm very much looking forward to it. And again, it's even if you can say it doesn't have a name and we don't know when it's coming out, it's still a big deal, and it's amongst these other things that are of equal cultural and historical significance to the industry.
You're definitely right. I think it also, for me, I'm just not a massive fan of his projects.
Yeah, no, totally fair.
So it does less for me on premise, but yeah. I mean, the fact that Geoff got it is even a little bit odd to me. Like, I don't even really know how he managed that.
Well, because PlayStation, Ueda probably doesn't want to give it to PlayStation, so then where else is it going to go? It's an Epic thing.
Yeah, that's true.
Epic doesn't do their own presentations.
Yeah.
And they like Jeffrey.
They do. I like Jeffrey.
Yeah, he's a nice enough guy. We're closing things out?
Tucker, there's one more game.
One more thing.
Yes. I can't even believe it. Intergalactic, the Heretic of the Prophet.
No.
The Prophet.
The Heretic Prophet.
The Heretic. Oh, sorry. The Heretic Prophet.
Yeah.
Prophecy.
Sorry. The Heretic Prophecy.
Are we sure?
I have it written down here.
I see.
At the bottom. Heretic Prophecy.
I don't even really know how to frame this. Naughty Dog's games are, outside of Nintendo, I don't think there's a single catalog of work that has been more meaningful to my life in games than Naughty Dog's. The significance of Uncharted 4 in my life when I played that, 2016, particularly the significance of when I played Last of Us Part 2 in the pandemic. Their games just really mean a lot to me. I love Uncharted. I love Last of Us. And to have that next big thing from them is just, on concept alone, deeply moving to me.
Yeah.
But when you look at what it is, when you look at what Intergalactic is, and you look at this 90s analog sci-fi, this retrofuturism that is not steeped in the same period that retrofuturism is often steeped in. It's not 60s or 70s.
Yeah.
It's particularly 90s. It's Porsche. It's directly referencing Cowboy Bebop. It's this aesthetic.
Akira, yeah.
Yeah, it's this aesthetic that is familiar, but there's a unique take on it.
Yeah.
There's not a single thing about this game that doesn't have me like just floored. I was watching a reaction yesterday. I'm not really saying much, and it's because I was genuinely speechless watching the trailer.
Yeah.
I couldn't be more happy. I couldn't be more excited. And there's more I want to get into about it, but that's just my high level thing. It's just these Naughty Dog means the world to me. And this game, I can't wait. I just simply can't wait.
I think the thing that really gets me jonesing, is the sort of beginning, the middle, and the end of the trailer. If I had to pick a part, no, but I mean that in three specific moments. Sure. Number one, the trailer opens on this alien font of some language that I don't recognize, and I'm immediately like, "Oh, this can't be Naughty Dog." Because to reflect on what happened last night, you had thought the show was over. You said the rumors there were Naughty Dog, and then Geoff one more thing does, and then it was Naughty Dog's game. But even though you had told me that, when alien font comes on the screen, like, and there's like, it translates to some fucking basically like biblical passage. I'm like, this is not Naughty Dog. And even on those opening moments of personalized ship and this technology, I'm like, okay, look, I love Naughty Dog's games. I echo everything you said. I even have a larger personal reference for them as Jak and Daxter Precursor Legacy is one of my favorite games of all time. Yeah. I think that's a game actually you'd really quite like. The Last of Us trilogy of games, even before Uncharted 4. Obviously, you didn't even mention The Last of Us 1, but that's something that's very important to both of us.
Yes.
Lost Legacy, I think, is incredibly underrated. Like, their catalog is unimpeachable. I think they're one of the best doing it. But they also have built in such a specific way from Crash Bandicoot to Jak and Daxter, 3D platforming, a little bit more action, a little more storytelling, to Uncharted, which is more storytelling, a little less platforming, to The Last of Us, which is a lot more storytelling, basically no platforming. And you see that lineage so specifically across all of their IP. And then this is a hard tonal cut to the first like science fiction world that they've created since the early 2000s. Everything else, in the time you and I have been cognizant of Naughty Dog, it's been realistic, grounded, based in actual cities of Barcelona and Seattle and all this, San Francisco, these places. So from that, it's the beginning, the fact that it's sci-fi, that doesn't like sit in my brain because it's so different for them. That's a good thing. Then there's the middle of the trailer. Well, actually, no, at the end of the trailer, I'm gonna start with first. The end of the trailer, when the main character, who I can't remember the name of, Jordan, pulls out this fucking epic energy blade and starts like going towards a like Lies of P fucking Bloodborne Sekiro looking crazy robot with a giant sword. I'm like, what the fuck's the gameplay of this gonna be? That is, look, melee combat hasn't been done by Naughty Dog since like Jak 1. And so it's just like crazy like turn from that. And I'm like, wow, that's so different for them. But the middle part is really what gets me. Is this one shot? Because retrofuturism, I agree, it's very interesting. Obviously very different. But the shot of the Porsche spaceship sitting in front of this red planet with a light ring around it and this spiral asteroid that's partially destroyed sitting in the middle, I'm like, that might be the single most evocative piece of video game imagery I've ever seen in my entire life. Like, everything about this is different for them. And we don't know anything about it, frankly. But that is so exciting. And then okay, so there's the beginning of the trailer, there's the middle of the trailer, and there's the end of the trailer. And there's also after the trailer, which is also exciting to me. Which is that two things. Geoff comes on stage and he's like, Neil Druckmann and 250 video game developers have been working on this for 4 years in silence. I'm like, what? That means that game is like really far into production.
Yeah.
And then he's like, oh, and also Trent Reznor and Alex Ross are doing the score. And it's like, insane. Boom, 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 boom. Like every element of that. And then even that moment when the ship is sitting there and speeds off, it's like, from the creators of Crash Bandicoot, Jak and Daxter, Uncharted, The Last of Us, comes Intergalactic. Like this is a legendary video game announcement moment. This is this is because they've been working on it for so long. It feels developed. It feels unique. And this is probably going to be the biggest moment of the PS5 generation, frankly.
Yeah, I mean, you said a lot that I really like. If you think about The Last of Us, which I love even more than Uncharted.
Yeah, no, same here.
Yeah. The Last of Us is not the jump from Jack to Uncharted.
Yeah.
By any stretch of the imagination, the games actually share, particularly Uncharted 4 and Last of Us, share a lot of DNA.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They're like different flavors of a similar archetype, I would say.
Yeah.
I think it's really interesting that in that moment of melee gameplay, you get an indication that this is perhaps, beyond the aesthetic and the tone, the jump forward in terms of gameplay that Naughty Dog hasn't taken in quite a while. I think the tone is cool because the tone strikes me as Uncharted-esque in that it's very pulpy. Sure. This is definitely a pulp adventure. It's just a sci-fi pulp adventure instead of an Indiana Jones style pulp adventure.
Yeah, but you're fucking Samus.
Yeah,
you're fucking Cad Bane.
Yeah, and you're Ridley or Ripley. Sorry, there's
Ripley.
There's a
believe it or not.
there's an aliens sensibility here. So I think what's cool about this is that again you can really feel inspiration. You can feel the touchstones that Naughty Dog and Neil love that result in this game. But there's another key thing about the production I want to note. The game was co-directed.
Oh, okay.
By Neil and by Matthew Gallant.
Oh, okay. I'm not familiar with that name.
Matthew Gallant, I had the pleasure of interviewing for Lock On when he was the director of Last of Us Part 1.
Sure.
He's been at Naughty Dog for a long time, but his only directorial credits are on the Last of Us Part 1 remake and the Last of Us Part 2 remaster to this point. So he's been at the studio for a long time.
He's been busy. Holy fuck.
Yeah. I mean, he's
been directing or co-directing 3 games over the course of the last 4 years.
Yeah, and this one is...
Also, though, that does kind of make sense because Neil has also was involved in the multiplayer project that was canceled and also very heavily involved in the creation of the now 2 seasons worth of show. And so I think that's a smart thing to balance the directorial duties between multiple people. And to me, indicates that this game is farther along than I even thought at the beginning of this conversation.
Yeah, it's really cool that it's a co-development. And I think it also, it's good to have somebody else in there to bring another spirit to the table. And I'm just so excited for what this represents for Naughty Dog and what it's going to mean for us as players. We got to get into it a little bit, or as I have to. I think that the response to Jordan is gross. However, I'm happy to at least feel like we're at a cultural place in gaming where your Grumses and similar bad faith actors are quickly...
J-Smash, Endymion.
Yeah, all these people are running out of road.
Yeah.
The usual suspects are complaining on Twitter. But I'm seeing the amount of ratios I'm seeing, the amount of discrediting of these people I'm seeing is really, to me, a great indication of the fact that this attempt to jumpstart a new culture war, while it was quite bloody in some sort of sense in 2024, I just think that they're running out of steam, and that's good. Because to log on Twitter and see so many people complaining about playing as Ciri in Witcher 4 and to be playing as Jordan in Intergalactic made me so pissed off. But to see the 10 times, 15 times ratios of these people is proof positive to me of 2 things. One, the average person is becoming wise to the grift. Yeah. And 2, the games we're getting announced are testament to the fact that there is no capitulation in the gaming industry from the creators at all. There is no going back. It is a war that these people at Grims are fighting because they have no meaning in their lives and they're losing. So while I'm so saddened for the Naughty Dog team that they had to turn off comments on this trailer for Intergalactic, that it got dislike bombed.
Yeah.
It is a fleeting fancy in the minds of these bigots who can't look at a character like Jordan and see that they're already so intriguingly characterized and badass. I can't wait to play as this character. I can't wait to learn more about them. And if you don't want to because they're not some male character or like hyper feminine presenting, I'm really happy to say that you can go do something else with your time.
Yeah.
And I think that last night's show was a great affirmation, and the response to these people is a great affirmation that they are losing and we're going to be fine.
Yeah. Here is the most exciting thing about all of this.
Yeah.
About both Witcher 4 and Intergalactic being announced last night being the opening and closing of the show from two of the most prominent and well-respected and successful video game studios in the entire history of the medium, of which series like Uncharted and Last of Us and Witcher and Cyberpunk are the games that very much appeal to the people that are now rejecting these studios with Last of Us 2 and to some extension Cyberpunk as well, but then into Witcher 4 and Intergalactic. And there's another one that we're going to see a lot of next year that perfectly fits into this pile is Rockstar Games.
Yes.
Writing their first female playable protagonist, who is going to be the main character of that game from everything we can tell. We might be looking down the barrel, Abram, of 3 games winning Game of the Year in a row that are from the biggest video game developers and will sell the most copies and have the highest Metacritic scores.
Yeah.
3 years in a row. There's a chance that Grand Theft Auto 6 2025, Intergalactic 2026, which is 4 2027.
Yeah.
All of these, we might be 3 straight fucking years of, oh no, a game with frankly, 2 of the 3 games being protagonists of women of color could be the highest selling, highest reviewed, and highest acclaimed games of the year. 3 years in a row. From the fucking GTA and Witcher and Uncharted guys.
Yeah.
This is for you. This is for you, motherfuckers.
That's the people in our comments of our Intergalactic reaction right now, by the way. Fuck all of you. You lost.
You're going to lose. You're going to fucking lose.
You've lost, and if you don't want to play the next great game from Naughty Dog, have fun playing fucking some random anime game on Steam. Go do that and have fun. We're gonna have fun with the real shit here. This is Tucker.
I'm sorry, I get games from Rockstar and CD Projekt Red and Naughty Dog. No. I'm okay with that. I'll take it.
Well, yeah, if I have to. If I have to. You're tying my hands. If I have to. Tucker, they announced some real shit last night. That was a night of real shit. That was real shit. That was beast mode.
It was beast mode for the industry. I mean, we started talking about how this felt very healthy, how it felt very unified. And I think that to me, this is the energy that I have, for especially the last 2 or 3 years, really felt Geoff Keighley building for the industry.
Yeah.
Is E3 was such a force for the 2000s and 2010s, and losing that and then into the pandemic, I think a lot of people felt there was no core to the games industry.
Yeah.
Things were fractured. Ubisoft was doing their own presentations. Square was doing their own presentations. Capcom was doing their own presentations. And they were all bad.
Yeah.
Sony wasn't showing up. Xbox was floundering. Nintendo was being quiet. But I think that over the last few years, I think the last 3 Game Awards have been Geoff Keighley's best in terms of announcements. I think that the health of this show was best this year, obviously. But I felt this energy of everyone being able to rally around one place and kind of set aside arms.
Yeah.
In December of every year. And of course, this goes back even to the moment when Sean Layden and Reggie Fils-Aimé and Phil Spencer all came on stage together, and that was a great moment. And I'm actually a little bit surprised we didn't see something like that tonight with Doug Bowser and Herman Holst and Phil Spencer again. Only one who's made it through the 6 years or whatever. But I like the fact that there's a consistency to the games industry now, and I think it's because of Geoff Keighley. I think that for me, the thing that really signals this is it's hard for me, because of how strong the last few years have been, it's hard for me to believe that many of these studios will show off their games anywhere else but a Geoff show from now on, which I think gives a power and consistency and like a future proofing to Geoff's shows.
Yeah.
That I think is unmatched. I mean, we're never going to see Joseph Fares reveal a game not at Jeff show. We're going to see Hideo Kojima not reveal a game at a Jeff show. Like, these things are consistent, and it's because he treats them well, and they succeed. It's a big platform, and everyone's coming together. And I wouldn't even be surprised. I mean, we saw Xbox games, Sony games, and no Nintendo games last night, but it Capcom and FromSoft and Sega and not Square Enix, but like, this is most of the biggest players in the industry, Epic, coming together for one night and doing it in the best way possible. I think it was just and that to me is why this is the best showcase. Not only do I think that you can pound for pound go with just announcements and list 12 deep here that are like things that would be the highlight of any other show, but also just the unification of it, the health of it, the communication of it. I thought it was phenomenal. I mean, I think it's a high point of maybe the history of the medium. I don't know if that's like ridiculous, but I really, really felt that.
I voted A rank in Jeff's poll that he put out last night. I echo everything you said. I think Nintendo is always going to be off doing their own thing.
Yeah.
That's just simply what they want to do, and that's fine. And to all the Nintendo fanboys complaining, you guys wait like 3 weeks, man. Yeah. I don't know what else to tell you. January's going to roll around with me all about Nintendo for a whole calendar year, so you just wait. Just a minute.
What about the every other game also releasing next year? God, Jesus. Fuck.
Yeah, I think we're staring at the barrel of an astounding year, and I think this is a great end cap to 2024. So, Tucker, I think we've gone on long enough. Would you agree? If you say no, I won't stop the recording. If you say yes, I will. It's up to you.
Yes.